Hey Pisces, great to see you. Come on in. Glad you've come because I'm just about to do your Pisces 2020 yearly reading and forecast, and I'm so glad that you could join me. It's excellent to see you. I've just been doing some spiritual work, or magic, I suppose you'd call it, and I'm in the zone, so I want to kind of keep the lights down a bit. But what I will do is I'll bring a lamp over and shine it down over the cards, so that when you come around and sit down next to me, we can look at the cards together while I do the reading for you, okay? So you'll get a good clear view of what's going on. I'm going to draw one card for each month. And so why don't we then start? Well, these have jumped out, whatever they are. So that's come out for January. And that is the Empress. February. The Nine of Cups. What's this? Isn't that an interesting looking card, that thing there? That's March. That's the Two of Swords. Gee, look, you're going to love the artwork on these, honestly. What's this one? There's the Four of Swords. I think what we'll do is, where are we? January, February, March, April, May. There's another dramatic card. May. Yeah, just startling imagery on these. I think you're going to like them. There's a Ten of Discs. That was Death. So there they are for the first half of the year. Now let's have a look at the second half of the year, shall we? See what there is. So let's have a look to see what July has to tell us. That is the Fool. So obviously a few things going to be underway there. There's the Two of Discs. Just exquisite art on this. There's the Four of Wands. What's this? There's the Knight of Discs. What's on the top here? Four of Cups. Let's get something from down near the bottom. What's this in December? There's the Knight of Cups. Okay. That's the cards drawn. Come down, sit down next to me, have a look at these cards with me, and I'll do your reading for you. Okay, Pisces, now as we discussed, January through to June and July through to December. Let's have a look first at this card of the Empress for you in January. And what a beautiful looking Empress card she is as well. Well, what can we say about the Empress? There are really two mother archetypes in the first few major arcana. The High Priestess, who is cold and remote, the empty void or ocean. And then there is the Empress, who is warm, nurturing, and overflowing with diversity and abundance. In some respects, she kind of reminds me of a camel that goes across a desert and carries within it life-giving water. But in her case, what she does is she carries her child first in her body and then out into the world through birth. But the Empress isn't just the mother to a single child. She is a symbol of the mother of everything, the abundance and fertility of creation, and she carries all things across the void of creation and into the world of manifestation. She takes the child and carries it in her body, covering it with her flesh, and takes it across the threshold from spirit into matter, from out of the dark forest and into the bright sun that is Father to us all. Now, I think that what's important here is that for you, I think that this is a time where you'll be exploring your relationship with your mother or with a maternal figure. Although I see this energy of the Fool, which is coming up underneath it, so it could also relate to males exploring. So one might be exploring a relationship with a paternal figure, or in fact acting as a maternal figure or a paternal figure to somebody else, where you provide advice and comfort and support to such a person. I think at this period you'll be a very empathetic and caring personality, and I think that you'll be in touch with the beauty in your life. Now, I have to say that I am also getting a feeling of pregnancy around this card, so you may well hear of pregnancy during January. I think it's also about nurturing yourself in particular. You see, you give so much of yourself to other people. You really do overextend yourself at times. Really, it has to be said, to your detriment, I think. And this is a period, I think, when in January you'll be having some sort of respite and spending some time to regenerate, to recuperate. I think you'll have a strong love for nature. You'll be strongly service-oriented. And I don't think that anybody's going to be able to easily categorize you as being either emotional or intellectual during the period. You won't be one or the other. I think you will be a harmonious blend of the two. That's what I'm really getting through here. I think it's also the case that people are going to find, and this is particularly the case for women, that there will be strong leadership ability coming to the fore in you, and others will see you as having natural leadership ability. You know, there's a thought that's coming through me at the moment, and it is this. You are about me and through me. Your kisses are all at once in all places. The moist folds of your skin are open and engulfing and devouring the whole of me. Yet I am the gate, and the shaft of your burning and luminous love impales me and rips me and feeds me, even as your mouth, your touch, your womb swallows me up. Yeah. I'd have a thought in mind during this period of January, and it is this. I give and I receive wisely. I realize that the capacity to receive is equally as powerful as the capacity to give. I value the healing power of beauty, harmony, and love in my life. Really quite a good start to the year for you. Let's have a look to see what's happening in February, shall we? Oh, here we have the Nine of Cups. And again, an interesting depiction of the Nine of Cups. I don't know what quite to make of this. The first thing that I'll say, though, is this, is that the 9 is the holy number, the sacred number. It always turns back in on itself. 9 2s are 27, 2 and 7 are 9, 9 3s are, well, 9 4s are 36, 3 and 6 are 9, and so on. This card I call the Lord of Material Happiness, is what I call this. It is Jupiter ruling the second decan of Pisces, that 1st of March to the 9th of March. Now, in classical astrology, Jupiter rules Pisces, and so there's a very strong complementary energy to this, and Jupiter's philosophical approach aligns well with Pisces' spirituality. Jupiter also brings good luck and harmony. Now, for me, mystically, 9 is also the number of the moon, and this, therefore, I think, strengthens the idea of water in Pisces, because we have tides. The moon affects the tides, and what have you, does it not? Now, Jupiter's softer concerns such as care, compassion, and the spiritual life are beautifully expressed through sensitive Pisces. There is an enormous capacity to love, although, as is so often with this gift, this is often hard won through lots of difficult times in the past. We have the fulfillment, I think, of the goal of love in this card. And to tell you the truth, the way I'm looking at it and where it's sitting just next to the Empress that we just discussed, I'd actually call this card the wish card. And so I think that you, whatever this Empress card means for you, and whatever it gives rise to, I think that you can see in here that this card is actually going to grant the wish of that for it to come true. This energy represents fulfillment. So really, things are going to go really very, very well for you at that time, and they can't really get better than they are. In March, we have this, which is the Two of Swords. Now, swords, of course, is all about... Actually, let's make it like that. It's a little bit easier for you to see then, isn't it? Swords, of course, is all about it's about the mind. It's the air. And two, for me, is a planet which is to do with, connected with Uranus. It's about breaking down boundaries. It's about extension. It's about moving forward. It can also be about illusion and sometimes even about delusion. But for you, I think what it means in this period is, well, I'm calling it the Lord of Peace. And it is the moon again, ruling this time the first decan of Libra, that 23rd of September to the 2nd of October. Now, this is a really happy combination because your moon sign describes your instinctive or emotional energies. And I think that with the moon in the sign of Libra, you're likely to have a very deep need for peace and harmony in your life. And Libra is symbolized by the scales relating to any area of life requiring balance, and this includes your personal environment, your work, and your relationship with others. The purpose, I think, of this card, the energy here really is that of neutrality, being neither good nor bad, but in balance. But the suit of air comes from the turmoil between fire and water, and because it comes from the suits of cups and wands, and so we can sometimes think that there could well be a little bit of instability associated with it. But I think more particularly for you that in March you may be having a hard time making your mind up about something and can't make a choice. Now, it's not an acute issue, but it's sitting in the background and surfaces up every now and again. You'll be dealing, I think, with the pros and cons of a situation. I think what it is that you might actually lack the information that you need to make the right decision at this time. But when you get it, the light goes on and you can see the situation for what it is, and you'll be in a much better position to make the decision that is right for you. With the Two of Swords, decisions that you make at this time should be geared to bringing about peace and harmony in your life. Look after yourself during this time. Do you know, there is an energy associated with this card for me mystically. And the energy is, well, it's a being of consciousness, a center of consciousness, what someone might call an angel. The word angel comes from the Greek word angelos, meaning messenger. And the name of this angel is Hahahel. Hahahel. Yeah, it sounds funny, but it's all the old biblical Hebrew. And that is one of the 72 names of God. Now, I won't go into how the 72 names of God are derived. It's to do with the Hebrew letters in the ancient biblical Hebrew. But it's derived from the book of the Old Testament called the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verses 19 to 21, that part which is to do with the parting of the Red Sea. Suffice it to say, then, that that name of that angel, Hahahel, substitutes in a way for the word of Lord in another book from the Christian Old Testament or Hebrew Bible known as the Book of Psalms. And I'm pretty sure it's Psalm 120, verse 2, which says, O Lord, save me from treacherous lips, from a deceitful tongue. Now, meditating on that name of Hahahel and on that Psalm 120, verse 2, you will find that it will heal all areas of life, including health problems, financial difficulties, and relationship conflicts. So you definitely have friends in high places with you this year, even at the start. Here we come into March, April, and we have the Four of Swords. The first thing that I'll say about the four is that numerologically it stands for power, it stands for stability, it stands for foundation. In some respects also it can be thought of, if you were to visualize it, it could be thought of as being a large stone castle with walls that were impervious to things coming from the outside. This card, now this was about peace, this card that we just looked at, being this one here with this dragonfly on it. And this card here, where it is placed, and I'll come out again now that we've seen it, it's quite straightforward, an image. I call this card the Lord of Rest from Strife. It is Jupiter in the third decan of Libra, the 14th to the 22nd of October. Now, Libra tries to find balance in our lives. The need for balance can sometimes induce in you some unrest. And Libra can sometimes in you induce indecisiveness. But Jupiter gives a period of rest from what I think may have turned up as being something of a difficult situation, as well as opening your higher mind and its flexibility, which is needed to resolve conflicts in life. Jupiter also allows you to move on. Now, of course, in classical astrology, before the discovery of the outer planets of Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto, Jupiter was actually your ruling planet. And I still see it as ruling planet because I think that the assignations of astrology that were made thousands of years ago don't necessarily have to be thrown overboard because we find a couple of planets a couple of hundred years ago. One of the planets, in the case of Pluto, may not even be a planet. I think that this is talking about an expansion in your thinking taking place, coming from really resolutions that you're making in a number of areas. I get this feeling of you negotiating some sort of a temporary resolution to matters at this time. It's about recuperation, about quiet consideration, agreement, and really taking a break is what I would say. Just kind of taking a break, almost a mental health break is the type of thing that I would describe it as. I think that you do have here in this month a need to take time out from a stressful situation, even a holiday to recharge the batteries, but certainly that mental health break is something I think which is needed. Because conflicts don't go away, but time out from them is needed. But make the most of that mental health break. Don't put off what needs to be dealt with, because if there are things which are unavoidable, then they can just grow and become bigger and more challenging. But trust your intuition to know when enough rest has been obtained for you, and make the most of this break to be at your strongest when you need to be to face the issues which are at hand. And in May we have this rather startling looking card. Here we have card number 13. Let me pull it out a bit so we get it all in. There you go. Now, would you say that that was a man or a woman? Well, I'm just looking at the chest area, and it seems to me that it's probably a woman, is it not? And I'm also looking at the hair, which is long and flowing, which is typical, generally, of women. And it's a depiction of death. Actually, the way that the image is set out, it reminds me of in the ancient religions of Greece and Rome, there were 3 female figures that were known as the Fates. There were 3 of them. The reason why I say that is because I'm looking at this long hair, and what they would do is they would put like a cord through a silken thread through the soul, if you like, of each person, and then they would pull on that thread this way or that way, backwards or forwards, and determine how one's life was to progress. As a result of that, we came up with the saying of, well, I'll leave it up to fate, or it's in the hands of the fates as to what happens to me. And I think this old crone, this old woman here, is the one who, as one of them did, was the one who cut that thread. And when that thread was cut, the person died. But what's interesting here is that here we have an image of someone that's, well, decaying, dissolving, if you like. But look at these beautiful flowers that are growing around. And it suggests, doesn't it, that even amongst decay and dissolution, there is the springing forth of life and of beauty. This card is the child of the great transformers, the lady of the gate of death. And for me, it is Mars ruling Scorpio. Mars, the planet of fiery energy in its lowest form, which is necessary to provide the impulse to change. And I think that what we see here is that you will be there'll be some sort of a transformation for you. There's no doubt about that in this period. There's some transformation going on. Scorpio, of course, is the image that the astrology that I'm getting into it. And Scorpio transforms. It starts as a scorpion. It transforms into which is a base animal. It transforms into a snake, which has wisdom and sexuality. And then it transforms ultimately into its exalted form, which is that of the eagle, when the soul is enlightened and begins to apprehend the divinity around it. So Scorpio undergoes a transformation, and I think you will be undergoing a transformation. I am seeing endings, mortality, letting go of emotional attachments. It's the end of an era or a cycle is what I'm getting here. I was having this thought which says that, "Thou art the death of me. I am slain in my love for thee. O devouring serpent, O immortal python, O crushing wisdom." Yeah. Well, that is that Scorpio type of imagery, I suppose, which is running around in my subconscious, or which is being told to me. And I think what's also the case here is that we will see that something in your life is dying, dissolving, or disintegrating. Now this could be a structure that you have created, a pattern, a habit, or a way of thinking about yourself and of the world. But this is necessary for new beginnings and transformation in your life. It really is a period of great change internally, I think. And some of these changes internally, or involving changes or cutting loose of things or people around you, as is the natural order, of course, they may give rise to some fear for you. But this energy here is saying, do not be afraid. And remember that the darkest hour is just before the dawn, and you should go forward with confidence, with belief in your ability, and with high self-esteem. I think that this is a time of major transformation, of leaving behind what you have outgrown, cutting through to the core, jettisoning the old, and giving sunlight to allow things to grow, just like these flowers. I'd have this thought in mind, and it is, I let go of people and situations with ease and dignity. Every ending heralds the new beginning. Detachment makes me stronger. Yep, I think that this is the case for you in this time. Well, then we have some very good news for you in June. Let's have a look to see what this has got to say. This is the Ten of Discs. Now, discs, of course, is the suit of Earth. And a lot of people say, look, it relates just to money. But I think it actually relates, well, in this reading for you, with the other cards that are around it, I think it's more than just money. I call the card itself the Lord of Wealth. Yes, the Lord of Wealth. But it's a wealth which is one which is more than money. It's about standard of living. It's about your enjoyment. It's about how you feel about yourself. It is Mercury ruling the third decan of Virgo, the 13th to the 22nd of September. Now, Mercury in ordinary astrology, Mercury actually rules Virgo, and Mercury is exalted in Virgo. So this is a very, very complementary set of planets and signs. Mercury will give you great communication skills, and you'll become a very good organizer and great at managing material affairs. And this is a result of the Virgo placement in this card. So there is success and abundance with this card. I see richness, abundance, wealth, prosperity. Funnily enough, I mean, I also get some sort of a feeling of a lottery win here. I mean, I don't really condone gambling at all, but maybe take a small minimum entry in something, because there's a chance of a lottery win here. There's an outside chance of an inheritance, I think. Certainly there'll be a very close-knit and supportive family, and if you're involved in a family business, things will be going very well. I think, there is the possibility of great richness here. Possibility of great richness. But do you know about your inner wealth? Do you share it generally? And maybe I can suggest that on a piece of paper, write down all the qualities which constitute your inner riches. And I'd have this thought in mind. I am internally and externally rich and free and enjoy everything thankfully and in surrender. Really a great card to have for that time in June. Then we have July. Now with July we have the Fool card. And the Fool is unnumbered. It's major arcana. It's actually the first of the major arcana cards, but no number is attached to it. The reason why no number is attached to it, the secret as to why there is no number attached to it, is because this energy actually represents you before you became incarnate in flesh, in space and in time. Because, of course, you didn't start here, you came here, and this represents you as you were about to embark upon this fantastic adventure of life on the planet. And it's a spirit, it's an outlook which is totally open. It hasn't formed any judgments as to what is immoral or moral or amoral. It is completely open to everything that may come along. The one who walks without fear, the spirit of the ether, is what I call it. Now, I really see the planet of Uranus attached to this card, and I don't really see a constellation. Rather than that, I see all the constellations. I see the entire zodiac. So it's Uranus in the entire zodiac. We have here, I think, openness, trust, ready to take a risk. And I think you'll have the courage to stand your ground. There is a developing independence within you, great creativity, great potential, the possibility to take a quantum leap in your affairs. And it's also about listening to the voice of your heart. Acting without malice. Being in the present. They're the types of things that this is referring to. I'm just having this thought that's coming through, as they do from time to time, which is, you are the breath caressing my cheek in your incessant going, yet you are with me always. Yeah. I think what's important is that this is symbolizing really that it's the hero's journey through the spiritual life, but in a practical sense, it is the starting of something new, or in particular something spontaneous that you'll just take up and go, I'm going to do this, I'm going to try this, I'm going to give this a go, I'm going to kiss him and not wait. I'm just going to try something new, or kiss her without waiting. I think it's the beginning of a journey into the unknown, which is full of potential for you. The need to take a leap, not of faith, but with the inner confidence that you'll be okay, that you'll be fine, that you are being protected. So open up your life and have the faith that you can create what you want. I'm getting also the idea of wanting to break free of the usual routine in life. But look upon life as the fool does, and be empty once again, almost like a child. Yeah, re-owning your courage here, and have the courage to be who you are without any fear whatsoever. Now here we have the Two of Discs, which is in July, August. Good time of year for the Two of Discs. And again, I'm seeing this, even though we really do get the idea of money, don't we, from this card, with the placement of the coins. Certainly we have the idea of money. But look, in this reading for you, in how all the energies of all the other cards are placed, I'm seeing this as being something which is far broader. It's a broader thing. It's about, it's about standard of living in general. I call this card the Lady of Harmonious Change. It is Jupiter, again, ruling the first decan of Capricorn, 23rd of December to the 2nd of January. Now, that's potentially inharmonious because Jupiter is all about expansion and Capricorn is all about conservatism and practicality, aren't they? But this high up with the 2 on the Tree of Life, I mean, the card in front of it is the Ace, then I think that everything actually works out to be okay. There is a sense really where, I think that I have a real sense here that you should go with the flow during this period, because I'm getting some sort of minor ups and downs, enjoying your work. I think you'll have quite a heavy workload. I get multitasking with you. I see you actually enjoying your work. And I think that there's likely to be a change that comes along, which is actually a very welcome change and puts you in a good place, and you're quite happy with it. I think you have to learn to go with the flow in your life and trust in the process of change so that you can find harmony and balance. Why don't you come out a bit so we can see you with the other cards there? Now, sometimes, lots of changes around, they can make things difficult to get off the ground, but I don't see that as being a major problem for you. What I also see, though, is that there is nothing financially or materially which is set in stone at the moment. So you're not locked in, I don't think, to anything. And there's harmony within this lifestyle energy. It's a harmonious energy that's around here. I do think, however, though, that it might sound a bit boring, but it does actually remind you to make sure that your day-to-day affairs are in order, because this card is one, I think, this energy is that of good management of your practical affairs and finances. And it might sound like a bit of a drag, but getting on top of the credit card statements and bills and chores is really as important as pursuing more enjoyable activities. Look, I'd have this thought in mind, and it is this. I trust in the harmony of my life and in the flow of my life. Every day, in every way, I am getting better and better. As you sure are. September. The Four of Wands, back into the suit of fire. Well, those comments that I made about the four are as applicable here. It is the case that the four very often signifies great stability. But I think that even further, though, with this card, I'm really getting the idea of completion. I'm getting it, I call this energy the Lord of perfected work. This time, it is Venus ruling the third decan of Aries, the 10th to the 19th of April. Now, this is what's interesting for me. So I'm saying that Venus is coming into Aries, right? Well, in ordinary astrology, we know that Mars rules Aries, don't we? Okay, Mars is the ruler of Aries. And we know that Aries, and what I'm getting is emotional energy around here. Venus in ordinary astrology rules two signs, Taurus and Libra, but I'm really getting the association with Libra. And in order for Venus to move from Libra over to Aries, it has to go to the diametrically opposed side of the zodiac, 180 degrees away, and it's going to be in detriment there. That is its powers. We would expect, would we not, that they would be muted or squashed. But I don't think it's a problem, in your reading. And I'll tell you why. Because I think what's actually happening here, the sense that I'm getting, is that Venus actually comes into Aries where Mars is sitting, and Venus and Mars, they don't normally get on at all. But in this case, Venus comes in and uses her oh, her feminine charms and wiles on the otherwise very masculine Mars, such that Mars becomes putty in her hands. You might be familiar, the Pisces woman, with doing that to men. You are the femme fatales of the zodiac. And I think that what happens is that there is a harmony that's there. And in fact, I'd actually even call it, for me, a sort of an opposites attract action going on. So you've got Venus and Mars, normally quite opposite each other, but Venus has come in and swiveled her hips and done her business, and Mars and Venus are getting on. There's an opposites attract. So I think what could be happening is that you might actually look at somebody that you had dismissed before, but you look at them in a different light this time, and funnily enough, they are starting to look back at you. It could also be the case that you take up a pursuit that you hadn't considered before, or which you thought, oh, I'm not going to enjoy that, and then you think, oh, look, I'll try it out and see what happens, and then you go, hey, what do you know, I enjoy doing this. It could also be the case that if it's in a work environment, you just say, oh, look, I hadn't done these types of things before, and then you start doing them. You go, oh, this isn't too bad. I think I can manage this. Or it could be that you take up a new hobby. It could be that you have a new interest that comes along. This is a green light to success. This is foundation, the first stage to completion. There's the possibility of setting up a house or of sprucing up a home, I think, in this period here, in this September period, sprucing up a home, maybe tidying up a garden, something like that, maybe even moving, I see here. But it can also, I think, represent that something needs to be completed despite your desire to move on to new things, because you might have an emotional, which is Venus, desire to press on to new things, which is Aries. You know, Aries is all about pioneering and moving forward, isn't it? Now that desire to move on to new things could relate to work or to new relationships or to a new dynamic within an existing relationship, right? It can be a new dynamic. You might want to stir up the existing relationship, and it's going to be very successful. It can also relate to yourself, where one aspect of you, if I look at this branch, one aspect of you may want to go out in that direction, whereas another aspect of you may want to go in this direction, or in fact stay where you are. There's a lot of this sort of thing going on. I would just think this, though, that completing the old frees me for the new. And certainly if there is any tension between you and someone else, then now is a good time to clarify it and resolve the interaction and to complete the old. Tie off the old. If you are actually moving on in a relationship, and they can be business or they can be personal, then I think it is important to tie off the loose ends. As clinical as that may sound, it nevertheless is. Look, sadly, it nevertheless is the case, because things can otherwise tend to hang around for a long, long time, well after we have become sick to death of them. Now, the Knight of Discs, well, what can we say about this Knight of Discs? He's in the suit of Earth as well. The Prince of the Chariot of Earth. Now, I'm seeing people that are going to be important to you in this period as being, well, Disc could be an Earth sign, but of them I think it's going to be a Taurus, or it could be an Aries. I think that this is a time when you will be energetic. You'll be seen as being a very capable manager and a steadfast worker. Slow to anger, but look out if you've become enraged. Now, esoterically, this Knight is air, and the suit of Earth is the suit of Earth, and an elemental dignity rules, as I refer to them as. Earth and air are enemies, and they weaken each other. Now, for example, see what a tornado does to the land, or a typhoon, or a cyclone, or a hurricane. And so this person, if it's a person that's in your life, I think we can expect that they will have some degree of conflict in their makeup because of the conflict between air and earth. Now, the character of the person is, if it is someone that you know, is really somebody who has great energy. An energy that they can bring to bear on really the most solid of practical matters. That's a he. These core cards, of course, can relate to males or females, but I'll refer to him as a he just because of the way he's drawn. He's energetic and enduring, and he's a very capable manager. He's competent and ingenious, thoughtful, cautious, trustworthy, I think, indefatigable, and he seeks new uses for common things. What he can do, and I think that this is going to be the case for you as well, is that he can adapt to circumstances and turn them to his advantage with a slow, steady, well-thought-out plan. Now, this guy, though, and this isn't you as a rule, but it could be one of those people that you know, a Taurus or an Aries. He's almost entirely lacking in emotion and doesn't really make any effort to understand ideas which are new or which are different to his view of the world. And he's somebody, I think, who can be inclined to be resentful of the more spiritual types, if I can put it that way. I think what we have here is that it's a period in your life when you really are going to be taking responsibility for your life and being focused. You could actually be quite good at sport, is what I think. Just to be careful, because I think you could well be focused on things that other people don't see you as being insensitive. But this is a time in your life when you are goal-oriented and want to sort out the material side of your life. You know, health, career things, those things that are tangible and which help your standard of living. Now, here we come, Pisces. We have this couple of cups cards, which is all about emotion, to finish off for you. And let's look at this one here, the Four of Cups. Another four. Well, the Four of Cups. What's interesting is that that seashell, which is washed up on the bed of the beach that's there, on the sandy bed. The shell itself, of course, belongs in the sea, and yet for a moment it's almost type of marooned, isn't it? It's as if it's sort of out of place. It's not where it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be in the sea, and yet there it is. Well, the sea, of course, represents emotional fulfillment. Cups, of course, the water imagery here is properly consistent with the suit. The Lord of blended pleasure. It is the moon in the third decan of Cancer, the 12th to the 22nd of July. Now, in ordinary astrology, the moon actually rules Cancer, which I have to say is probably about the only really great strength of this card. I think the underlying message of the card is that you want to be emotionally fulfilled in a deep way, but at this time you might well just be going about it in the wrong way. The moon in Cancer, well, the moon is associated with the principle of flux and change, and you might find that your emotional states may be shifting like the phases of the moon. I think that what we can say is that you've got to be careful of settling for what you have, but not really having your heart in it. But conversely, it's also the case that you must appreciate what you do have. There could be something in here where you want what you can't have. And I think Sometimes it's the case that, and we looked at this card here, which is the fates. In many respects, we are here to learn certain lessons and go through a certain process. For better or for worse, there's nothing much we can do about it. It's the old story that, that you would take this cup from me, Father, but your will and not my will. The cup of having to go through life. That's a challenge that we're all faced with its ups and its downs. I think it's possible that you may be at this time, look, there's just something niggling away at you, which is niggling some sort of a boredom or dissatisfaction in life. Maybe you're too familiar with your environment. Are you going to be... Is it the case I'm getting here like a lack of motivation or the need to set new goals? That's possible. And do you know, I think that there's the chance here that you're going to be looking at material things for happiness as a way of kind of making up for what is this sort of unresolved thing inside you. I just can't place my finger on it, but I am seeing cell phones and shoes and handbags and things like that. So I'm getting, that you then you go and buy those things, but then what ends up happening is it's only a temporary pleasure, almost to escape the feeling of discontent that you have. But what happens, of course, is that you get sick of the thing and you just go, oh, why did I spend the money on it? I should have looked at something else. I think it's a case there that this is not a sentence, and what this is saying is that, look, here are things that could well be happening the energies here are saying that this is likely to be happening to you. But what's important for you see, you're spiritual enough, you're smart enough to be able to detach yourself from those things, and then to say, look, I understand that this is a way of feeling. I understand that this is something that's going on, and almost kind of look at it like you're watching a movie, but don't get sucked into an agenda or someone else's agenda, or get sucked into somebody else's emotional script. Not unless you're the script writer. That's the way I look at it. You know what to do about that. You're smart when it comes to these things. And then finally in December, we have the Knight of Cups. Well, the Knight. The thing we can say about the Knight is, as we said before, because we saw a Knight before, didn't we? A Knight of Discs, yes. The Knight is air, and Cups is water. And so we have the airy part of water. And when you put air and water together, you can either have still ponds, or you can have raging seas. You can have great windstorms and crashing waves. I think the people around here, and just the people around you, as I say, they could be males or females. I think it's Cup, so it could be water sign, but I think it's really likely to be a Scorpio, or it's likely to be a Libra. And I'll use the male pronoun, right, because it's described as a knight. So it's somebody who is, I think, the water sign, probably a Scorpio though, or a Libra. And he is the prince of the chariot of waters. I think that with the airy part of water, water and air kind of strengthen each other, but they're neutral. So in elemental dignity rules, there's no elemental contradictions in his makeup. But with him, the elements combining with this Scorpio energy that I'm getting make him really quite an intense character. As fast as a river flows, so does he, trying to get the most out of life as possible. I think that what we can also see is that he cares intensely for power and information, and for his own aims. And if you're in ever any doubt as to who the priority is in this person's life, it's him. It's number one. He's the person. It's a young man of subtlety, of secret violence, of craft, and I get very much a sense of art around here, artistry, someone involved with the arts, visual arts, or with music, photography, theatre, film, writing, painting, that sort of stuff. For some reason I'm getting that. Or things, people making things that are beautiful. I think that because I also get this Libra energy around him, I see that he has the ability to detach, as Libra is an air sign, from that heavy, intense, controlling emotions. I think that Scorpio energy is pulling up. Now, the card shows, I think, that he has poise and control of the emotions. But being detached and cool can often be a front for insecurity and fear. And, usually the feminine asks the masculine to go deeper into his feelings, to join her in the place where the two meet as one in relationship. But this guy is completely without conscience in the ordinary sense of the word. He's perfectly ruthless. To be frank, he cares intensely for power. He feels no responsibility for others. Now let me tell you his bad side. No, he has no responsibility for others, and look, he can't be relied upon. That's the underlying energy of such a person as this. He may appear calm, but it masks a passion and intensity which can make him volatile. Look, he's got a lot to offer. He has immense ability, but he can be very secretive, hiding his deepest desires from others. He is someone who can provide very good insight into other people's lives, because he's usually been there and done that himself. He's lived the lives of 10 people. He's done it all. At worst, he can be cruel, reckless, and selfish. Sum it up. But look, I think that the messages that are coming through for you are that. I think that it's possible that there's a requirement for rest and healing as a result of some trauma, or going over, or releasing, or forgiving as a result of some trauma that has occurred to you previously. Could even have been a long time ago. And, that this period is allowing you to mend before going forward into a more productive phase, I think. And if you don't use this time wisely, you can have a kind of a repeat cycle. There's a bit of a karma to this thing. And in the Prince of Cups, this Knight of Cups, it comes about when he's exhausted from periods of passion and loss. It's also possible that your expectation, see, this is a very unreliable person, so it's possible that you may find that your expectations in relation to somebody or something have been unfulfilled, which leaves you with a bit of sadness or disappointment. And I think what you need to do is to set realistic goals. You need to be careful not to shut yourself out in a way and stop trying to move your life forward after that episode of maybe being disappointed by people. For this guy, when you live life on the edge, you can experience loss. In fact, it's almost inevitable. And at least if you are experiencing some disappointment or a feeling of loss about something, then at least you know that you are alive. And the benefit of it is, you see, everything's a wave. Everything is a wave. Everything is a vibration in matter. And for the peak, there's a trough. Well, you don't see the peak without the trough. They're there. I think what we do also see here is a potential for balance and harmony. There's an intensity to this which is kind of resonating with that Scorpio energy which is around, and it can add an emotional depth to a sexual relationship or an emotional relationship. It gives it real intensity. It doesn't just mean sexual fulfillment, but it means getting the most out of life by living it for the full and using the energy and intensity of Scorpio to go and live your life to the full. And that's what you'll be doing in this month. Well, what a really fantastic set of cards. I tell you what, it looks to me like you might be stepping into your best year ever. That's the way it is for you. Well, there you go. That's it. Your 2020 annual reading done. I tell you what, I think that this is going to be your best year ever. I really do have that feeling about it. I've got to say that the vibe that's come out of that reading of yours is very, very positive, and you should be looking forward to this year. By the way, I just want to say also that you've been fabulous. You've been great, and in fact, you've been brilliant, and you've played your part of this exercise to perfection, and I thank you for that. Look, really, all that remains for me to say is this: that you are a legend, and I hope I see you in my monthly readings. Subscribe if you want, but check out the videos anyway. Till then, bye for now.